Faith and real.
I hate introductions, don't you? But it seems like they're always necessary. So here goes. I'm Ashley. I'm a wife, mom, pastor, and missionary's kid, which is double trouble if you didn't know. And if you're in this space, we're here to learn about who God is, who we are in Him, and how to do faith in the real, meaning the real messy. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this special Father's Day edition of Chats with Ash. I have my dad with me. And you've heard me say that my dad is a pastor and he's a missionary, but he's my dad. And he's here today as my dad, not as a pastor or missionary, to talk with you about being a dad. So, to open up, what is your favorite dad story?
About, I mean, little kids?
Little kids, yeah, sure. Not specifically me, though. I'm sure you don't have any. That was so great.
Well, again, you just said this is not about a pastor or missionary, just dad. But it's so hard to separate the two. And I remember you guys being so little, and a lot of times at church, we would have a baptism, and we did that by immersion. And so Southwest Oklahoma water was very precious. And so we'd fill up the tank, we'd baptize someone. Then after church, I would allow you kids to swim in the baptistry before we drained it. And so that was always kind of fun, seeing the little kids swimming around, and we had to kind of keep it secret, so someone may think it was blasphemous, to be swimming in the baptistry water, but that was kind of fun.
I can't believe I forgot to put that in my list of pros with being a pastor or a missionary kid. It was fantastic. Yeah. What do you enjoy most about being a dad?
The most about being a dad, and I think it's just watching you guys grow up. You survived.
Yes.
And that we survived. But you hear it all the time when your kids are little, that you want to turn around, they're going to be grown, and you don't believe it because you're in that daily drudge, and it just seems life is, you're just trying to endure another day, but really it does go by quick. And so I turn around now, it's like, where did the years go? But to see you all grow up and become fine young adults and raising your own families, that's the greatest privilege of it all. It's just seeing the growth.
Speaking of growth, times have changed, and I'm sure you had things when you were a parent of young ones that were, pulls on your attention and distraction. Yeah. But for me and for many of my friends, it's technology. We have our phones and everything right in the palm of our hands, and it's easy to miss out on what's happening. So what do you say about that?
Yeah, that it's all changed. The phones have changed. Hey, you know what? Can I tell another funny story?
Go for it.
I just realized, talking about the phone, I remember one time the kids were little and we had a phone in the kitchen/living room area, and it was on this long cord, and it never failed that I'd have a serious phone call, and I'd be talking, and so I'm trying to give you kids the clue. This is a serious conversation, and you knew right where the range was, and so I couldn't get to you because it's just like the dog on a leash. And finally, the day came where we moved up in technology. We got a cordless phone. And I'm on the phone, I'm talking, you kids started acting up. You knew you were safe. You knew where the zone was. And I was able to come right up behind you and let you know that I was there. And it was just like, how did that happen? Yeah, just shock. So, yeah, but the technology, it's a word that I use. I hear you using it, and that's being intentional, because right now, it can rob so much attention and rob so much time. And again, technology is just technology, and times change, and anything can be used or abused. But it really does amaze me to be in a room where even the parents are there with the kids, be it coaching or at the dance hall, whatever it is. But everybody's on their phones. It's just continually on the phone. It's like you're missing life. You're missing the interaction. You're just so involved in this little world here that we're missing it. And I'm just as bad. I get sucked into the thing as well.
I do. It's easy.
You have to watch it.
Yes.
That's not the right word. I have to watch. You don't want to watch.
Don't watch that.
Right.
Watch your kids.
Yeah, watch how much time you're putting into there.
Yeah. I'm so thankful, though, Dad. I have so many great memories of you being
out with us kids.
As we're talking
a lot about technology. But,
yeah, right. The irony. But I remember you jumping on the trampoline with us, you building, I forget, this awesome playhouse. Remember the white playhouse and had the real windows and the shingles that you built that for us?
It's because I couldn't afford a plastic little tights one like everybody else could. So I had to make it out of scrap wood.
Ours was better.
Yeah, it turned out pretty cool, little playhouse.
The balance beam for Kelsey and I when the Olympics were on. And you were always there and doing with us. And I'm thankful for that. But what are some things, this is the hard one, what are
Okay.
some things you wish you would have done differently?
Well, you don't have a whole lot of time. I think every parent has regrets and things that you would turn around and do different. Again, it's always easy in hindsight.
Mhm.
Uh, for me, it's probably about anybody, any career, it was not always separating work from home or bringing home things that I shouldn't, as a realm of, emotions or things had gone bad, and then taking that out in the wrong place. Uh, I think I'd readjust some of the time, some of the things I worried about didn't need to be worried about. Just the constant pressure that, you're under and you bring it home. Uh,
What are some of the things that when you say things you didn't need to worry about, what do you mean?
well, again, I can't, I'm here as dad. It's kind of hard separating pastor and missionary. And, so that you're always involved in the lives of people as you love being, but you could put in so much time and so much energy and so much work
Mm,
that would be constantly pulling away. And
yeah.
again, we're not talking about the life as a PK or MK, but it was sometimes hard to separate the two, or getting those late night calls or being on vacation, having to come back home. That's hard. That was a regret. Carried more worry home than I shouldn't have.
Mm,
And the biggest regret, probably hurts the most, would be discipline. I think I could have done a lot better job in being more consistent with discipline as you kids were growing up.
I hope this doesn't embarrass you then, because I want to share this story because all of us parents make mistakes, especially with discipline when your temper is flare. I mean, nobody
Yeah.
can push the buttons on in your body like the kids. Your kids can just wow, it's amazing what they're capable of when they're acting up. And it can be hard not to react in that as a parent.
Right.
And I've failed so often with that, but I am always encouraged by the remembrance of this story. We were on our way to Canada for a year of language school. We were in a little minivan, the five of us, and we were taking our time to see the sights. And we were in New York City on the interstate. I don't remember what she said or what I said, but I know I snapped at mom and I was really disrespectful. And you pulled the van over and you took me out on the interstate in New York City and you whipped my bottom, which was probably the most humiliating thing a 13-year-old girl could experience. However,
12, right?
oh,
Were you
yeah,
12? Or,
I was 13 because we
oh
had just
my,
turned 13 when I
that makes the
left.
story even worse. Here come the authorities knocking on the door.
No, that's back when it actually did good. But I remember we went to the hotel and Kelsey and Wesley were getting on their swimsuits to go swim. And you asked me to step out in the hall with you. And you sat down with me and you said you were wrong. And I remember telling you, no, I was wrong. I was disrespectful. And you said, no, it was the way in which I disciplined you. I never should have done that. And you asked me to forgive you there. And that has stuck with me all these years because to have a parent admit that they messed up, the kids know it when we mess up, don't they? But to
Yeah.
admit that and to ask for forgiveness was such a healing thing. And it gave me so much respect for you. And it also set the example for me with my boys
Hmm.
because when I mess up, it is amazing to me how much pride can flare up within me. I don't want them to know it, even when I know they do.
Yeah.
But that memory just always encourages me to do the hard thing, to do the God honoring thing, and to say I messed up and I need forgiveness because ultimately that points us to Christ and our need for Him, even as parents.
I think, again, when we were raising you up, and again, we're trying to do the right thing and follow the right, the godly way. When it comes to discipline, there was a lot of debate. We'd listened to Dobson and all these different, and I remember us really wrestling through when you use corporal punishment, when you don't, when it's timeout and all that kind of stuff. And again, I think back on that, and there were so many times where I just took the easy way out or the quickest way out on discipline rather than what would have been best for every kid in a different situation. And so I go back to that story. Yeah. We were traveling. We had lost everything that was familiar to us. We were moving to language school at the time before we went over on the field. And again, all of us were feeling hurt. All of us were frustrated. And you were going through a terrible thing, to rip you out of school and out of youth group and church and language and everything else. And yeah, to discipline out of anger is never good, or embarrassment.
No, but it's something that we all relate to as parents.
Yeah.
We've all done it. And so there is hope in that.
And can I just tell the story?
Yes, do it.
It wasn't so much a story. It's like this one, since it's your blog, we had three kids, and the oldest Ashley, you knew the rules. You were firstborn. You always tried to obey the rules, but you would take us to the absolute edge. I mean, you can't
No.
get any closer to the edge. You know the consequences for stepping over the edge. And then there were those times it's like you'd go ahead and do it, knowing what was coming, and then we'd discipline you and you'd learn from it and you'd go on. But it's like why do you have to go there? But you would, and then we'd go through the process. The middle one, we could basically look at her sometimes. I just let her know that I was disappointed, and man, she'd be a basket case. And then third one would be kind of like, here's the rules, and step over the rules, and with discipline, it would be kind of like, that's all you got. So I mean, it just takes so much wisdom and the energy, and that's what's hard as a parent, because you get home, you're exhausted, or maybe with the kids all day, and so again, you're and you try to. Sometimes you wouldn't take the time to get to the motive, to get to the heart of what's going on here. Or I just did some coaching training online yesterday for a center shot for bow and arrow. And it was really interesting that it's teaching how to correct. And they always start with a positive, something that you've done right, something that they like, and be specific about it. And then here's what we can correct and make better. And then we're going to practice it to put it into action. I thought, man, that is such a clever way of learning. And so positive reinforcement and correcting what can be done better, but doing so in such a way that doesn't demean, but actually builds up. It's like,
I love that.
yeah, you learn things with time. That's why you get grandkids too.
Yes. And the rules change, I've noticed, when you have grandkids. They get away with a lot.
Well, that's true. And part of that is you get to enjoy. It's like when we raised our kids, you get to go through that. But part of that too is when it's your own kids and you're growing up and you're in the day-to-day grind, that you can discipline or fail to encourage, and a lot of times it's not so much maybe they've embarrassed you, or maybe, like you say, maybe you're tired or something. Not that this is all about discipline and encouragement, but when you get around to the grandkids, or even if you're in a church family or whatever it is, you realize when you get older, a lot of that stuff really doesn't matter. It's not that you compromise or it wasn't serious, but it's just a kid being a kid, and it wasn't worth that level of.
Okay, so how do you decide what's worth it, addressing, and what is just a kid being a kid, and you need to slack up a little bit?
Yeah.
Because that's hard for me. I am this is the rule, just do it. And I find myself often lacking grace in meeting that with a boy. So
that's where that wisdom comes in, and again, the time it takes to know each kid and what's different. But again, getting to the heart. I do what I do because I want what I want. So what are you wanting there? And then what am I wanting in the way that I correct them? So it gets back to that incredible use of time. There's just no easy way about it. Most of us, we get home, or we've been home, we're exhausted. The last thing we need to do now is to sit down and have to get and address a hard issue. But that's what being a parent's all about, not being a buddy. And so I don't know, Ash, it's your kids, their heart, and you just got to really pray for wisdom there and how to respond.
it's a challenge. It's such a challenge. I'm going to throw this question at you that you're not expecting, because we live in a society that really doesn't seem to appreciate the role of men and fathers. And so for the dads that might be listening, what's some encouragement that you would give them? Just their importance.
It is true. It seems like the role of men is so demeaned and so pushed to the side that we've really swung this pendulum back the other way. And the role of men is so vitally important. I was sharing that statistics. Everyone's seen it, but when it comes to the spiritual development and character development, the role of a guy is absolutely vital. And so, man, one thing that comes to mind is give your kids heroes. Your mom did a really good job, and others of keeping heroes in front of you, good books, the good videos, putting really good friends around us, the guys that we could look up to, that were faithful in their walk. And so as a man, it's that Titus 2 thing where the older have responsibility to the youngers, and the youngers to the elders. But in that midst, just doing lives together, putting guys around other guys. I have mentors in my life, the guys that I look up to that are finishing the course well, and then trying to read a lot of narratives and things about other people. But for guys now and dads that feel demeaned, man, just know your role is so important, and that God has put you into this. I mean, there's nothing that God values more than a soul. It's a soul part of you that's going to live forever. And to think that God in his grace has designed family and says, here, I'm entrusting you with this soul. That's beyond comprehension. That takes an amazing amount of dependence and humility on my part, and willingness to put people around you to help. But guys, your job is an eternal job. It's touching souls. I was just in a text this morning out of Deuteronomy chapter 5. And in Deuteronomy, of course, we get D6, Deuteronomy 6, where as you lay down, as you walk, as you go along the way, you pouring truth into them. But before that, it's going through the 10 commandments. And there, on the commandment about idolatry, it says that your example, particularly says fathers there, is so absolutely influential that you can impact generations down to the third and fourth generation. But the good news is, for those who love Christ, for those who are pouring that faith, you can actually influence and bend and taint in a good way generations for 1,000 generations. So guys, again, I know that the road is hard, and we're looked down in culture and all these things, but realizing that really the society is being shaped by what men are doing into the lives of others.
And you said something that I really want to point out. You said the importance of putting men around you and asking for help.
Yeah.
I mean, we are not created to do this alone. I think it comes more natural for a woman to go to another woman and say, I need help. But I admire the men that have the humility to reach out to other men and have that community and support, which you do so well.
Yeah.
But that's so important.
We do it better, but you're right. Guys connect by doing stuff together, but you're just having guys you look up to, and make sure your kids have heroes in their lives that are more than just someone a digital on a screen, but real heroes going through the good and the bad stuff. See how they respond.
Yeah, we're not called to be perfect.
It's the whole idea of family and church family.
Yeah. All right, we're going to end with a very serious question.
A serious question.
What is one of your favorite dad jokes? You have so many.
Okay. When does a dad joke become a dad joke?
Oh, when it makes no sense.
When it becomes apparent.
Oh, good grief.
I heard one this morning.
Okay, keep going.
This morning, and this one it's brilliant. What do Winnie the Pooh and John the Baptist have in common?
They both eat honey.
No,
Oh, good grief. If you don't get it, that's okay. You're better off not knowing.
I just heard that this morning.
That's awful. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on here today and for sharing. And I just want to say publicly how much I appreciate you and I'm grateful for you. You never claimed to be a perfect dad, but you did always point us to the perfect father. And for that, I am eternally grateful. And to see your faith and your influence touching the next generation in the lives of our boys. I love it when they say Papa said, unless they are talking about ants on a log, and then I don't love it so much.
When the log rolls over, we will die, we will die.
Oh, good grief. All right. Let's leave you with this. God works best in the imperfect. And when we're willing to admit we need him, that's when we start making our stories about him. So let's live our faith together in the real, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.